There's no doubt that architecture as a profession has many flaws. In Chapter 8, Machina Habitée, of The Architecture of the Well-Tempered Environment by Rainer Bainum, a prominent figure, Le Corbusier, was terrible when it came to building sciences. He attempted to impose many of his ideas, such as a universal temperature of 18 degrees Celsius, which, as we all know, would not work in most climates. He was quite domineering. Still, a greater set of issues prevailed. By now, we all know who he is. But who is that woman standing next to him? Here he is again with his comrade, architect Jean Badavici. But who's the woman standing in the shadows? We should know these women. They made many notable contributions to architecture and design, yet their faces and stories aren't well known or widely discussed. Let's uncover these unknown individuals and give credit where it's due. The woman in the picture is Charlotte Perriand, a French furniture designer. You may recognize this chair. She designed it, along with this one, and several others. But Corb, who she worked alongside, slapped his initials on the line and called it the LC family. The woman in the shadows is Eileen Gray, a self-taught architect whom Le Corbusier was deeply interested in. So much so that he defaced her prized E1027 house by painting cubist murals all over it. Here he is doing so in the nude. Perriand and Gray weren't the only ones that were pushed aside by their male contemporaries. Denise Scott Brown was not recognized by the Pritzker Prize jury when her partner Robert Venturi received the award in 1991. Sue Rogers and Wendy Foster were overshadowed by Richard Rogers and Norman Foster, although they started out as Team 4. In the 2019 exhibition of Soft Schindler at the Schindler House, Pauline Gibling Schindler was celebrated for her act in painting the interior for her half of the house pink. This was an act of rebellion against her ex-husband, Rudolf Schindler. More importantly, it was an act to soften the coldness of modern architecture. Mary Bainum contributed many illustrations and curated the work within the selected book. Yet her name isn't mentioned or acknowledged, just merely regarded as My Wife by Bainum. He even fails to acknowledge Ray Eames and her role in designing the Eames House.
And here, over the ocean in Pacific Palisades, is the house that really taught the world's architecture lovers to come to Los Angeles, the house that Charles Eames created in 1949.
It's shameful that these talented, influential women were suppressed by the men of their generation. Thankfully, their names are now surfacing, giving them proper recognition for their contributions to architecture in their lifetime. With the current climate, social, racial, and political issues, here are some of the women making waves in the movement toward cultural conservation, energy conservation, and environmental building systems in architecture today. This is Jeannie Gang, founder and principal of Studio Gang. One of the projects by her firm, Rescue Company 2, uses a combination of strategies to reduce the building's carbon footprint. This includes a green roof, geothermal HVAC system, and a solar water heating system. The Arcus Center for Social Justice Leadership, a LEED Silver-rated building in sustainability, uses wood masonry along the building's exterior. Wood masonry is a low-tech and inexpensive method of building assembly, yet it reaps high rewards. Cordwood masonry sequesters more carbon than was released when building them, reducing the building's overall carbon footprint and pollution. It's like a carbon sponge, although it's not just wood masonry that has the ability to absorb and store the harmful CO2 emissions that have been rising. Other organic materials do too. Bamboo, hemp, mycelium, even engineered concrete that uses 95% of recycled materials and 5% renewable liquid additives, reducing the cost of production and use of virgin materials. Patricia Cully, alumna of Carnegie Mellon University and senior associate at BCJ, played a critical role in designing the Frick Environmental Center here in Pittsburgh. Using solar energy harnessed from the PV array, thermal energy regulated through a geothermal bore field, and elaborate rainwater and wastewater collection and filtration system, this building earned its LEED Platinum rating and Living Building certification. Another strong role model, Ann Chen, is the principal of GBBN here in Pittsburgh. Some of their works include the Carnegie Library. Some features of this building include LED fixtures, variable refrigerant flow heating and cooling, and a rain garden to control erosion and improve stormwater runoff quality. More notably, this is Tree Pittsburgh, also known as the Giving Tree. Built using a system of building modules, this building was constructed with reclaimed materials off-site and brought on-site for assembly in just 3 days. A 3,000-gallon temperature-controlled water tank provides the campus with its potable water. Sensors alert staff when the supply is low. Photovoltaic solar panels on the south-facing roof will provide their power, helping Tree Pittsburgh achieve its net zero energy consumption. Using these strategies of modular construction and reclaimed materials will aid in the reduction of waste output in the building process and in energy consumption. Here is a project by Toshiko Mori Architects. The Thread Artist Residences and Cultural Center uses raw materials, some of which harvested from the region within Senegal. In addition to the use of sustainable materials, an efficient rainwater harvesting roof, and low-energy on-site construction, this project builds a community, quite literally. Members played a critical role in the construction of the building while using traditional construction methods. The water harvested allows the community to thrive during the dry season, which supports the families and children. The program of the project is also ever-changing, supporting education, the arts, and the local infrastructure. Here there was clear communication between the designers and the clients, fulfilling their needs while integrating passive systems and a great design. From a small-scale community project to a large urban fabric, diversification of programs served the sustainability of society. Police Station by Studio Gang is a research project that does just that. Merging the program of a police station, education facility, and health services, this hub becomes a full-service community center that aims to improve public safety, well-being, and strengthen the socioeconomic status of the local neighborhood. This is not a video to expose the inequity of architecture, but to identify the merit of using diverse voices and design lenses. To encompass the vision of the community, use inventive building materials and technology, and respect the genius loci of the site is to build with the future impact of the project in mind. You may be thinking,
it's a beautiful dream. Stopping the wheel. You're not the first person who's ever dreamt it.
I'm not going to stop the wheel. I'm going to break the wheel.
perhaps it's not time to break the wheel. Rather, replace the failing framework with which we rely on. What does this have to do with the future of architecture? Well, 1. Buildings have long lifespans, and we need to consider the materials we use, from source to site, and the potentially negative or positive effects they have. 2. If a positive change is to be continued, we must recognize the injustices and lack of diversity there has been and currently still exists in the profession. And 3. If we continue on this path of disregarding the diverse voices of the clients and designers of various race, gender, sexuality, and background, we're intentionally ignoring a plethora of experiences and stories that would greatly impact the practice. There must be transparency, diversity, and honesty in the interventions we make as architects on the world. We must build community through resilient architecture.